Afternoon, everyone. My name is Johnny Woodell, and I'm with the Momentum Strategy team at InsideSales.com. You are the Warriors on Thursday afternoon post-lunch to be here with us, so that's great. Full disclosure, you asked if this was the predictive analytics. That is the title. We're going to be focusing more on the second part of after the semicolons, developing a high-performing inside sales team during rapid business transformation. So should you want to get up and leave, you're welcome to. But there's actually a lot of great content that I'm excited about, and hopefully there'll be some value for you. So this is kind of panel style. I'm going to have some questions for these folks, and who we've got here today, and they'll have a chance to introduce themselves. But Heather Baker is a Senior Director of Corporate Sales Development at Workday, and she'll tell you more about her role and about the company. And then Jason Rasmussen is VP of Sales at Avo, and he'll give us some background as well. So, Heather, if you want to start and kind of introduce yourself and give a kind of background on your company, and then Jason.
Yeah. So, Heather Baker. I've been with Workday for about a year and a half. Prior to that, I've been in demand gen for the last 15, 16 years in software. Focusing on everything from programs, operations, sales development, sort of end-to-end demand gen. I joined Workday, like I said, about a year and a half ago. For those of you who don't know Workday, Workday is the leading provider of enterprise cloud solutions for HR and finance. We're actually headquartered in the Bay Area, but we have our largest office in North America outside of our headquarters is here in Salt Lake City. So we have about 250 people in Salt Lake, just right downtown. And it houses some of our consulting and integration team, but the largest team that's there is our sales development team for North America. So that is made up of about 65 people. 52 of those are reps, and then managers and skills development managers.
Hi, I'm Jason Rasmussen. I'm Vice President of Sales for Avo. I've been with Avo for about 6 years. I was employee number 18. We had 2 reps at the time. We just broke the 500 employee mark. 230 of those are in sales. For those of you not familiar with Avo, it's a legal website. Our business model is very similar to Yelp. If you open a teriyaki shop, you're going to end up on Yelp whether you want to be there or not. If you hang a shingle and get a license to practice law, you're going to be on Avo whether you want to be there or not. So we have profiles for every licensed attorney in the U.S. Those profiles include sanctions, misconduct, reviews. So again, very similar to Yelp. If we rate you very high, then you're going to want to give us money to advertise. And if we rate you very low, you're going to sue us. So we've actually been sued 18 times in 6 years. That's going to happen when you rate attorneys, but we've won every lawsuit and continue to grow, and we get to kind of hide behind that banner of consumer empowerment while at the same time bringing many, many dollars out of law firms. So I specifically run the sales team, which includes about 100 account executives now. We also have 20 in our engagement team. We have 80 in the account management team, ad operations, sales operations, and our new group, which has really been instrumental in the recent changes, our sales enablement team. But we have basically removed all prospecting from the reps. We've centralized it. We've used inside sales as well as our own proprietary data science team has aggregated a lead score that we use to kind of power those lists. And basically, we've managed to save about 40% of all of our reps' time where they were deciding who to call and what to say and running into each other a lot. And the tools from inside sales have certainly helped increase our revenue, our productivity, and as well have created some change management issues that we'll talk about a little bit today.
Great. So the question is, when you get sued 18 times, what website do you go to find a lawyer? That's what I want to know.
Avo.com.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll jump in. So first question for Heather. Typically SDR teams are high volume. They have large buckets of leads, but your model is a little bit different. Maybe tell us about that.
Yeah. So for those of you who know a little bit more about who Workday is, we sell HR and finance solutions to large enterprise companies. That's sort of our sweet spot. So our team is structured a little bit differently. We have only a couple of inbound reps that are taking care of sort of A and B or MQLs, and then the rest of our team is all outbound. And the way that we're set up and aligned is all by how our field sales team is structured. Our sales cycles are longer. The way that, and I think we're going to get into this perhaps a little bit later, but the way that our comp plans are set up are to incent our reps for the activities that will ultimately help them generate quality pipeline. That's our number one goal in life at Workday, is to generate quality pipeline. So the way that our sales rep or our sales development reps are structured is there's one sales development rep for every regional sales team, and each of those teams is aligned to either a commercial sales area, so large enterprise, medium enterprise, and then we have a public sector team as well. So we have one sales development rep for about every 5 to 10 account executives. And every sales development rep, so our model is highly targeted in the sense that we know what accounts we're going out after. So every sales development rep has anywhere from about 125 accounts to the most is probably 300, 350. So the different activities that they're focused on are all of those activities that would ultimately result in a qualified sales opportunity.
And your SDR sales cycle is longer than normal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have the luxury of two of our senior managers that were a part of the team 4 years ago when it was established here in Salt Lake City are in the room. But there are, like, when we get win notices for accounts that close, these two guys, Spencer and Andy, will be on win notices from when 2 and 3 years ago that they were sales development reps on those accounts. And our sales dev reps can be prospecting into accounts for 6, 8, 10 months.
Yeah, which, if you think about the skills required to do that, is different than someone who's just setting up, one call, setting an appointment, or 2 calls, setting an appointment. And we'll come back to those skills as well. So actually, Heather, I have another question for you. As you talk about this connection to sales, and the SDRs are grouped and aligned to sales, what does that partnership look like? And what have you done to strengthen? Because that can be a tough relationship sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that the relationship between the team that's handing qualified leads or opportunities, whatever your nomenclature is, over to sales is a delicate relationship. But it's one that is, one of the most important connections, obviously, for us to make. We have a presentation that we do for new sales development reps as they come on board, and kind of speaking to some of the things that they have to focus on and the skill set we have to give them. We have a fairly lengthy onboarding process and certification because they have to know a lot more when we're pairing them with reps that are seasoned reps that are closing multi-million-dollar deals. So that connection between the sales development rep and their account executives is absolutely critical. In fact, a sales development rep's success will be made or broken by their ability to establish a solid working relationship. And some of the ways that we, from a management and leadership perspective, work on that is I really look at it as it really comes back to sitting down with the sales leadership team and saying, what is it that we are going to agree that my team is going to deliver to you? Right? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What do you want it to look like? And then once I give it to you, what are you going to do with it? Right? What can I hold you accountable for? We've talked a lot over the last few days about, things like I was actually sitting here yesterday about call recording. A lot of the things that we're talking about aren't rocket science, but it's all about those agreements and getting tactical and actual focus and execution on those things. So sitting down with sales and having those agreements and then having regular conversations. So we have regular pipeline review calls with the sales leaders to say, here's what we have in our developing and what we call stage 0 pre-qualified pipeline. Does that line up with what your reps are telling you that is in their pipeline as well? Because ultimately it's the account executives that flip our opportunities over to qualified.
Yeah, great. So Jason, you mentioned that you went from 2 reps to about 100 reps. And I got to imagine there's a significant amount of growing pains that happened in that process. Maybe kind of talk to us about that process of going from 2 to 100.
Sure. Well, when I came on, there were two reps, and we were on an insertion sales model. So we sell advertising. We would sell a 3-month campaign, and then 3 months later, we'd have to renew that campaign. We were targeting very large law firms. So one of the big changes that I made when I came on was targeting the individual attorney as opposed to the firm. And we moved to a subscription model from an insertion model. So that certainly helped. We didn't have to chase renewals all the time. Everything auto-renewed. I was kind of a set it and forget it price point, and it became a very, very highly transactional sale. So within a couple of months, I brought on 6 more reps. And we basically have 100% growth year over year ever since. However, in the first 5 or 6 years, that was really, really easy to do. We wanted to double revenue. We doubled headcount. But once we started seeing a lot of growing pains each step of the way, they all had the same reports. They had no territory, so they would run the last login report, and 10 reps would ring up that poor gatekeeper's line red, all from Avo. No real rules of engagement at the time, so we created territories and created processes to kind of keep that from happening. But still, each team had 10 reps, and now you'd have 10 lights instead of 50 lights, but still the same issues. And those really were our best leads, and we didn't want to incent squatting. We didn't want anyone to have a protected book until they actually got a response from an attorney. That wasn't their account. We have no protected accounts. They have a very small book they can keep, which is current pipeline. Everything else is constant acquisition. So we saw a lot of growing pains, and we started seeing diminishing returns once we had sort of harvested or picked the low-hanging fruit, whatever analogy you want to use. And each new client was a little further up the tree, a little more difficult. So finally, when it was broke and we had to fix it, we centralized all of our prospecting. So we brought on a sales enablement team. We found, through our research that 40 to 50% of each of our reps' day was spent determining who to call and what to say. And if we could take that out of their hands and put it in the hands of data scientists, and basically we researched the reps, we determined what reports they were using. Every situation has a play. So if someone got their first review yesterday, this is typically what we say to them. If someone got a good review or an endorsement, this is what we would say to them. But all of our targets are users on the site. So think of it as LinkedIn were to call you. You wouldn't know why, but you would certainly know who they were. So that's kind of what Avo does. We call them, but we had overgrazed our best leads to the point that they knew why we were calling. They were unsubscribing in email terminology. As soon as they saw Avo Inc. on the caller ID, it went straight to voicemail. They deleted the voicemail before they listened to it. They deleted the emails. We weren't providing valid business reasons. We weren't adding any value to those calls. It was, hey, do you want to buy an ad? Do you want to buy an ad? You still don't want to buy an ad? You sure you don't want to buy an ad? So we had to force our sales team to go further out. We couldn't just sell divorce in LA. We had to start looking at Grand Rapids, Michigan, and landlord-tenant practice areas and things that weren't as high value, but because they hadn't been burned out by us already, the conversion was actually much higher. But so we've had a lot of processes. The end result is we now have all of our leads prioritized. We have plays associated with every possible situation. Those each have their own seek list. It's sorted by our own internal lead score so that all of our best leads are always at the top of the list 24/7. Sort of relieved that pain of, I don't like to be told who to call. I don't like to be told what to say. I'm a professional rep. I don't work in a call center. So there was a lot of change management and getting from A to B that, we did see some attrition. We certainly had to rip some Band-Aids, but at this point we're seeing 42% higher revenue on 40% more dials. Reps are making more money. We're making more money. Those that stuck it out and drank the Kool-Aid are very happy to be there.
So to be true to our predictive analytics title of the session, let's dig a little bit deeper on your attorney lead scoring, both kind of how you developed it and then a little more on how you execute on it.
Sure. There's several data points. So again, I'll use the LinkedIn analogy since most people kind of understand that. But our product in the directory is people. It's a lawyer, it's a headshot, it's their resume, it's where they went to law school, sanctions, misconduct, and then it's all kind of aggregated into a directory where a consumer then can search, and we have every attorney in that practice area in their geography. We have them ranked from A to Z, similar to Yelp. If you want pizza, you search for pizza, you put your city, it's got all the pizza places. So consumers typically only have to hire an attorney 2 to 3 times in their life. They have no idea what to look for. They don't know about these practice area things that, what's the difference between a divorce lawyer and a litigator or a landlord tenant or workers' comp. They just don't really know what to look for, how to look, and it's really the last vertical that's moved online. Everything else has been online for a decade: travel, health, everything, basically. Job search, all that has been there for years. But legal has sort of hidden behind their big mahogany desks and their leather-bound books and speaking a language no one else understands. And our whole reason for being is to empower consumers to make better decisions at very critical times in their life. So specifically, just to understand the landscape a bit, they are users of the site. Their first step is to claim their own profile. There they can add information. They can't delete anything, but they can add things like publications or speaking engagements, or maybe we didn't know you were the president of the local bar association. And as they add that, it actually increases their rating and increases their result in our organic listings. So similar to Google, we have an algorithm. They can play the game or not. They can ignore us, but once we had 9 million consumer visits a month and 40% brand awareness, it's really hard to ignore us anymore. So we measure all of those behaviors and activities of our users. We know when they logged in. We know when they answer a question. We know when they're contacted. We know when their rating goes up or down, or their placement in our algorithm goes up or down. So we worked with both our data science team, our sales enablement team, and our best reps, and we got everybody in the same room and we said, what does your day look like? How are you successful? Where do you start? Well, here's my favorite report. And when that report's empty, I move to my second favorite report. And when that report's empty, I move to my third favorite. And all it was is simply Salesforce reports that measured all of these behaviors and activities. So when did they log in? How often do they log in? What is their adoption? What is their usage? And all of these basically measure the propensity to buy. This was anecdotally common knowledge on the sales floor. It was shocking to our data science team. And once they sort of got involved and the project got prioritized, they were out on the floor listening to calls. We had product managers out on the floor listening to calls. We had the CEO of the company out on the floor listening to calls. And it was a very, very high visibility project to roll out this lead score. And then we also brought in a lot of other inputs, like the warehouse doesn't know that we called this guy 17 times in the last quarter. The warehouse doesn't know that he opens email or not. So we had to bring in a Pardot score, and we had to bring in Salesforce activity. And we have all of these different inputs into this lead score, which is then the sort order for each seek list, but the filters are the plays themselves. So in this situation, we say this. In this situation, we say this. So the enablement team then took that filter and applied a play, which is nothing more than a topic, some bullet points, some stats that are very relevant to that situation, a pre-recorded voicemail that they can put in their own voice and make some edits. But simply taking away that 40-50% of their day that was, who am I going to call and what was I going to say, really bubbled different reps to the top, because we had reps that their strong suit was prospecting. That's what they were good at. They were really, really good at Salesforce reports. They were really good at finding who to call and what to say. And we had really good salespeople who were very poor at that activity, who are now killing it because they're getting twice as many attorneys on the phone. They know what to say. Once they've got a live conversation, I don't want to script your conversation. I'm just helping you get prospective clients onto the phone. So the lead score is certainly the most pivotal part of that.
Yeah, I love that you had the data scientists on the floor listening to calls with reps, as well as the leadership. I mean, there's so much power in getting them connected to the front lines as they then have context for the data. So Heather, I know when you came in to Workday about a year and a half ago, there were a lot of things kind of out of order and things that you needed to work on. Maybe talk us through a couple of those main areas that you've worked on over the last year and a half.
Yeah, so the team and I were definitely dealing with high turnover, which is probably something that you guys all deal with as well. The function of sales dev, there's high turnover. For us in Salt Lake City, we also face the fact that there are a lot of technology companies here, so there's a lot of sales dev teams to compete with. So we had a lot of attrition happening because our model being different, that the sales cycles are much longer, which therefore means that the prospecting cycle is a lot longer. We had CSDs, that we call them corporate sales development reps, that were in their roles and wanted to be turned into account executives within like 6 to 8 months. And that is never going to happen at Workday. It's not the path into account executive. That is a path. So one of the things that we really focused on was the two things I'll touch on is really basic, but just setting very clear expectations with candidates when they came in, right? We knew what we were looking for as far as competencies went, but one of the number one things that we really interview for is, hey, so we talk about 18 to 24 months. You should expect to be in this role for 18 to 24 months. One of the things at Workday that is a big differentiator for us is our culture and how quickly the company's growing. In my first year at the organization, I think we hired like 17 or 1,800 people across the company. So anytime you have that, and most of it was in sales and sales support functions. So anytime you have that happening, there's always growth opportunities. Right? So making sure that candidates, when they came in, understood that they should expect to be in their roles for 18 to 24 months. So that was a big piece of it. Another thing that we did related to career development and the struggle that we were having around attrition was start to really make sure that we had this team vision of having our team be a high quality talent pool for the rest of the organization, but we weren't doing a very good job of delivering on that. When we had management positions, historically, we were looking at hiring outside for management positions, first line managers in our sales dev team. We also hadn't done the best job, and I think a lot of it was just because we had grown so quickly, of creating career paths for sales development reps, and creating opportunities for them to learn, even at the 10-month mark, what their next steps could be. But I will say, I think it's a fine line, because once someone knows that they want to move on to their next role, continuing to keep them motivated is really quite challenging. But attrition was one, and those were a couple of the things that we did. Another thing that I think is continually a focus area for sales dev is just our field relationships. And making sure that, again, we were focusing on those connections with the field teams because they are so closely aligned. It's not like a field sales team in the East, New York City metro area. They had one sales development rep. So they're highly, highly sensitive to that attrition. These guys and gals are working on deals that can take anywhere from 8 to 18 months to close. So 16 months of a sales dev rep goes by like that, right? So for the sales dev rep, they're like, what's my next step? And for the reps, they're like, what do you mean my sales dev reps over, changing again? So making sure that our field relationships, again, that we're setting clear expectations with them. And then as we've matured as an organization and started to mature and get more disciplined about our pipeline management, even beyond sales dev, really focusing again on what are the agreements between the two teams, and helping the sales dev reps understand and design their comp plans so that they were being rewarded for the activities that they were doing that actually drove qualified opportunities.
Great. Also, maybe if you could just hit on some of the creating a culture of accountability and some of the things you've done with transparency and kind of reporting and metrics.
Yeah, so a couple of things that we focused on was, looking at overall efficiencies, right, processes and systems. So we implemented inside sales pretty quickly after I came on board. We'd actually already signed a contract and we're in the process of starting to implement. So looking at systems was something that we did, which then allowed us to be more transparent about setting expectations with the sales dev reps and showing them the measurements of our success and being really clear and transparent about, we've changed some of the quotas a handful of times. We made a shift from, in fact, one of the managers that's in the room said, that's going to be super hard and I don't think we're ever going to be able to do it. And I was like, we're going to be able to do it because driving change is hard. But we moved from our primary measurement of success had previously been a pre-qualified opportunity, and what we had determined was sales didn't care about pre-qualified opportunities. They cared about qualified opportunities because that's when they entered the pipeline. So we actually moved our largest measurement of comp to qualified opportunities. And so one of the things that we really had to focus on when we did that was making sure that we communicated the why with the team, right? So this is why we're making this change. This is how this rolls up to the overall strategic objectives of the organization. And we were very transparent with them. Also very transparent about, here's our goal as a team. And then, as it rolls down and cascades through the teams, and here's where we're currently tracking at, and holding people accountable for that. If you're not hitting your goals, here's, the path for what that looks like. So I think that that's something that we've definitely focused a lot on.
Yeah, great. Jason, so we talked about, once you got to a point of diminishing returns and you couldn't just hire more reps to double your revenue, then you started to turn the dials, right? So we talked about efficiency and using the predictive analytics. What did you do for productivity? When you turned the dial for productivity, what were some things you did to get their activity up?
So certainly kind of taking away a lot of the decision making of who to call and what to say instantly created more productivity per rep. However, the change management involved in that is very difficult. Like we had a great why of why this is good for Avo. That was an easy story to tell. It was why it was good for me as a rep. That was a much more difficult story to tell, especially if I was one of the reps that had been very successful the old way. I'm making a ton of money, and this doesn't feel right. This feels icky. This feels like I went from a professional salesperson to working in a call center on an auto dialer. And this, I get why this is all well and good for Avo. How is this good for me? And that is a very individual conversation. And though I would get in front of the whole team and have a lot of slides and a lot of decks, we really had to get into the weeds to rip the Band-Aid. So that was a whole lot of one-on-one conversations. And quite frankly, to be a field sales enterprise long-term sales cycle, no, this isn't a good step for you. This is a step in a different direction. Now, if you want to move up and be a regional sales manager, because we have a 100% full cycle inside sales team. We don't have SDRs. We don't have field. Everybody's in the same building. Everybody's sitting next to each other. And we have a lot of millennials, and they have this sense of entitlement. Many of them have been there many, many years, and their only perspective is Avo 2 years ago. They've never tried the green grass on the other side of the fence. They've never been to Zillow or to DocuSign or Tableau or any of the other local Seattle competitors who also all are moving to a dialer. And to convince them that just like when CRMs came out 15 years ago, I fought it. I fought it hard. I didn't see the value. I saw the value for my company. I didn't see it for me, and I just wasn't doing it, and it took me a long time to adopt it. And eventually having Salesforce on my resume helped my own career path. And eventually having inside sales on your resume is going to help your career path. And we had a lot of tactics to rip the Band-Aid, and including a quitting bonus. We put a $2,000 bonus out there to anyone who quit in the next 3 days. We had negativity spreading from a small group that was cancerous. We had rotten apples in the cart. We had others who were championing this change, who were opportunistic, who they were spreading positivity. And in the middle, we had this silent majority who, these two voices on both sides of them were much louder than ours, because these were senior reps who they looked up to, who, basically had a louder voice than we did. So we had to push that down to the line managers a lot to say, look, you have 8 to 10 reps. You know them better than we do. You know individually where they sit. You need to have very difficult, fierce conversations and determine whether they're part of Avo's future and whether they want to be here and whether they can see that getting twice as many potential clients on the phone every day is a good thing. And if all of this worked tomorrow and I could snap my fingers and you made twice as much money, would you still be happy? Is it the work environment? Is it the paycheck? Because you're bitching and you're telling me it's your check, but that's just not true because everyone's making more money. So what is it? Is the truth was I don't feel special anymore. And that's what we really had to get down to, is how do we make these people feel special and unique and they're not just a number? And to stop having conversations with their line managers, which sounded like, here's your daily dials, here's your talk time, here's your results, here's what you need to do to finish out your month, to conversations that are, where do you see yourself in 3 years? How do you feel about all this change? How do you personally feel this is going to impact you? Let's we had all the transparency and everyone had the buy-in on what was good for Avo, but having those individual conversations, and again, we lost 13 people in a week. Some people just, this wasn't a good spot anymore. 4 of them have already come back less than a month later. So I'm sure more of them will return and some of them won't. But the truth is we have 40% increase in activities and 42% increase in revenue. And my job is to optimize our sales force. And sometimes there's going to be attrition to be able to do my job.
Did they get to keep the $2,000 quitting bonus when they came back a month later?
Yes, actually
That's
they
tricky.
did.
That's a good factor.
We didn't see that one coming.
And a signing bonus when they came back?
No signing bonus for returning. But one of the things we did was say we wouldn't contest your unemployment. The purpose of the bonus was, look, if you're already looking for a job and you want us to fund that job search, I'm happy to do it. Don't be in the building poisoning the well during that time. Like I will not contest your unemployment. We can leave on a good standing. No hard feelings, no bridges burned. But if you sit in this building for another 2 months and look for a job and continue to poison that well, we're not going to leave on good terms. And Seattle's a small town and I have a pretty big voice here. So let's stay friends and let's just have an honest, fierce conversation. Are you part of the future or not?
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Let's keep talking about people. Heather, we talked about a little bit of the different skill set of your SDR teams, and you kind of hinted at some of the skills development, but maybe just go into that a little bit deeper. What are the things that you do to develop the SDRs, develop people and their skills development?
Yeah. So one of the things that we built into the sales dev team pretty shortly after I joined was an actual skills development manager role. In teams like ours, it's not, it sounds like you guys have a pretty robust enablement team, which I would love to talk to you more about after. I don't think working for an HR software company, as an aside, that I would be allowed to offer people a quitting bonus, but I think it's a fantastic idea. Anyway, so skills dev. So we got this year we have 2 headcount for skills development managers, and we really look at skills development in 2 ways. One is all about how can we onboard talent that we hire that fits that profile in the most efficient, effective way possible and get them ramped so that they can get into that 18 to 24 months. They're working with their account executives and contributing pipeline coverage. So that's the first way that we look at it. And then the second is because so much of what we're doing is really focused on identifying what the catalysts for change are for the organizations that we're prospecting into. It's really important for our reps to understand, because it's not transactional and high volume, the personas that they're calling into, the competitive landscape, because all of the organizations organizations that we're calling into are using something. So ongoing skills development is a major focus area for us. We do that not only via the skills development manager positions in the department, but the first line managers also incorporate a lot of that into what they're doing. We have a lower than normal first line manager to rep ratio. It's actually like one manager for every 7 to 8 reps. And a couple of our teams are a little lower. So it's holding like monthly workshops, incorporating a skills development topic into all their team meetings, things like focusing on call coaching and strategy around territory development. And then a newer thing that we've identified that has actually helped us with sort of the attrition and career path discussion is taking our top reps within the department and sort of sponsoring them as a management team to lead best practice groups and sort of workshops with the rest of the teams. And we actually we're a Serious Decisions customer as well. And, you know, when I came on early, had a conversation with them to say, we're really challenged with how we can differentiate and make our top reps feel like they are, you know, sort of set apart from the rest of the group, not only by their results because they're regularly over-attaining and making more money, but how can we make them feel special? And so this peer-to-peer best practice group is another way that we're focusing on skills development. Skills development is an area that I think is like, the work is never done there. But it's an area that we're really focused on.
Yeah, that's great. And I think a testament to the different things that Workday has done is their ramp time has gone from 6 months to 4 months, and then tenure has gone from 17 months to 18 months. And you know, those shifts, those have huge impact, even just a couple of months.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
So with the couple minutes we have left, we'd love to open it up if there's any questions from the folks here.
So we still sell to individual attorneys. We have definitely a grab and grow philosophy. I want long deals, not tall deals. Our compensation is based on billing relationships, not the size of the billing relationship. And we want to spread within a firm. So lots of firms will have, 3 to 5 attorneys, solo small firm. Others will have 500. And in most instances, they're actually responsible to bring in their own business, which was a surprise to me when I got here. But they have a different percentage of the revenue that they get if they acquire it themselves. So we know that if we can get a partner, that's a little more valuable than getting an associate. But our compensation is based on getting into that firm. That's really important to us. We overcompensate on the acquisition, and we don't want to be your 5th biggest budget item because, similar to Yelp, just giving us money doesn't help. You don't see a lot of Applebee's or TGI Fridays or Pizza Hut advertising on Yelp. It's Joe's Teriyaki Shop where Joe uploads pictures of his menu and he comes out and he shakes your hand. So we need that time from the account management perspective to help them increase the creative for that ad. And in that sense, it's them. So they need to have a higher rating. They need to have reviews because we have 3 ads per page. And if you're a 6.5 with 1 review and the other 2 advertisers are 10.0s with 12 reviews, the consumer is going to pick them, and you're going to bring down the value of our inventory. You're going to churn. You're not going to be successful. So why do I want to bring you in at $50,000 a month? I want to bring you in at $500 a month. And then once your ad is performing and we have a great story to tell, that's when I'm going to go for the taller deal and less for the longer deal. And I think the fact that I've run both the account management and the acquisition side has been really, really helpful in understanding that and the friction that is always involved there. And we still sell to attorneys, to answer your original question, but very, very often it rolls into more of, a firm-wide deal where once we get 1 or 2 success stories within the firm, now we're on the partner's calendar. We're talking about it. We've got their head of marketing involved. We've got them actually insisting that all of their associates claim their profile, that they invest the time and energy to make that profile look good. We have aggregated the ratings now to firm-wide. so that if you have an associate that's not playing the game and isn't participating, it makes your firm look bad. So we've done a lot of things to kind of grow from the individual attorney and spread within the firm and build that billing relationship. So, our lifetime value, our average price point at point of sale is $200 a month. The attorneys we sell to bill $300 an hour. They don't want to have an hour-long conversation. It's going to be yes or no. It's a 15-minute call. It's a one-call close. It's highly transactional. The hardest part of the job is getting the attorney on the phone. Once we've done that, once they have skin in the game, they're willing to talk to the account manager. They're willing to invest the time. No one wants to invest an hour in a profile no one sees. But once I'm advertising it and there's thousands of local consumers seeing that, now I want it to look good. So kind of acquisition is getting our foot in the door. We want to grab, we want to grow from there. We want to have zero barrier to entry. So we have a month-to-month agreement. You can cancel tomorrow if you want. There's no teeth to the contract. All I want is your time, and the money is really just an excuse to get some of your time.
And you don't want to get sued. That's the other part of it too, right?
We actually love getting sued. It's awesome PR.
Yeah, one last question.
Follow-up question. It sounded like the peer-to-peer assessments were pretty key to shortening your onboarding, lengthening your tenure. Could you go a level deeper? A couple things you feel you uniquely do that makes that so effective?
The peer-to-peer best practice sharing. Yeah. So in talking with some of our top reps, just to get from their perspective, we've had a lot of change over the last year and a half. What is your perspective on that change? Some of the things that they said is, I don't think we do a very good job in our department of best practice sharing. We get really focused on what's going on in our own territory. And some of the top reps said, when it gets towards the end of the month and it's the last week and reps who are tracking behind come to me and say, what are you doing and how are you already into next month, right? So we have this philosophy of working the 15th of the month to the 15th of the next month so that it's not from the beginning to the end and their pipeline's not dry as they get into the next month. And some of the top reps said, yeah, I tell those reps, well, there's a couple of low-hanging fruit things that I can suggest that you might not be doing, but it's probably and so hearing that from some of our top reps, and them being really excited about saying, yeah, let's go out to the department and hear what the things are that are their top concerns, and let's hold best practice sharing sessions, because every rep is different. Some reps are really great at having high activity levels and how they do that, and other reps are really good at building messaging and strategy. And so we've come up with what seems to be a pretty healthy mix of different topics and skill sets, and then just open it up to the department. And again, this is all peer led because I didn't want it to make it feel like it was another thing that was coming from the managers that was being forced on the team. So that has been helpful.
Great. Chris, we'll give you one last one.
So I am an enterprise account executive. I've been working alongside BDRs for the better part of a decade. I have a love-hate relationship with them because if they're bad, they don't add any value to me. And if they're really good, they get promoted and they move on and I have to start all over again with someone new. With a lot of, first, we all get distracted really easily, and I think a career these days is like a 2-year stint. This is for both of you, by the way. And so it's really easy to get distracted with all this opportunity. And if I'm not going to get promoted, I'm going to go somewhere else and see if I can do it faster. How do you do two things? One, how do you try to balance them and say, be really good, but don't expect to get promoted? Or how do we start driving a really good culture of people who just want to be awesome inside sales reps for a long period of time and get really good at it and just love it?
I'll let you answer first.
So I actually started out as an SDR and moved up into field sales, and that was my dream at 22. I wanted to have the 3-piece suit and travel around the country and get in front of boardrooms and close big multi-million-dollar deals. And then I got there and I just hated it. I was traveling all the time. I didn't see my kids. There's nothing super exciting about flying into New Orleans for the day and flying out at 6. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. Parts of it obviously were. I mean, certainly there's a thrill in closing $1 million deal. Everybody loves that. But the big key I found right after 9/11, I was forced to go back and work in inside sales in a full cycle environment, and I loved it. I had that thrill of the kill 2 or 3 times a day. It was incredible that my next call could make me $4,000. Like there was the excitement and I have a very short attention span. So for me, it was perfect. But what I realized very quickly is my career path is either go back to field sales or I manage a team of people doing what I do. For Avo, for example, when we were seeing 100% year-over-year growth, we were hiring 20 reps a month and promoting 2 to RSMs every month, regional sales manager. So there was always career path because 2 people were getting promoted every month, and you could see that career path. And then when we made some changes, we stopped growing staff and kept growing revenue, which meant less career path. Now we're only promoting an RSM when one leaves. And I don't know when that's going to be, and now I feel icky again, and I don't see job progression, and I don't see career path. So we forced ourselves to make career path that was, we changed what being promoted was. We have 4 different tiers of account executive. They move up or down every month. We also took away the tenure from that. So we have this NFL theme throughout our sale. We have a playbook. I referred to the plays earlier. These 4 teams or tiers are second string, starter, all pro, and MVP. And as you move up the tier, you get better leads. You get higher lead score. But if you have a bad month, you go down a tier. I don't care if you've been here 3 years or 3 months. We've leveled the playing field. Then we came out with a leadership development program. So we want them to be a manager. We want them to think, I want to be a leader. I want to be a mentor. I don't want to be the best gunslinger. And that's a mentality shift. And if you want to say, look at the board, then this isn't going to work for you. If you want to say, how well I do my job is I swing a big one and I put up big numbers and leave me alone. Like if that's how you want to grow and progress, you're not a good fit for my org. For my org is if you want to be recognized, you do it by being a leader, because I have 120 reps, and even if you're number 1, you're 1% of my revenue. I don't care. 1%, being number 1 as a rep is not a big deal in my org. Now, turning 6 or 7 other people from number 80 reps to number 30 reps, that's how you get recognized in my org. That's how you become a mentor, a leader. You're helping train, you're sharing those best practices instead of keeping them. But in order to attain that, there needs to be real tangible progression along the way. And in my org, you can get promoted or demoted every single month. Then if you manage to stay in that MVP for a while and you show that sort of leadership ability, you get invited into the leadership development program, at which point you attend the regional manager meetings. You are second in charge whenever the manager's not there. You have some additional permissions, some authorities. You get reports nobody else gets. You're logging. So you're kind of a mini manager, but you're still on the phone, you still carry a quota, but there's a lot of little wins that we can celebrate along the way. And we had to force those in, because once we weren't promoting anymore, that icky feeling kind of creeps in. And what I love about inside sales is when everybody's in one room, you can feel it. You can just walk the floor and you can feel the vibe. It's either a fun culture where everybody's laughing and having a good time, or suddenly it's quiet except for the people on the phone. And everyone is huddling, but they're not huddling on the floor anymore. They're huddling in the break room, or they're huddling on their cigarette breaks. And you can tell the stuff they want to talk about isn't good, or they'd be doing it on the floor.
Yeah. So, so we deal with that challenge a lot, right? I mean, we'll have conversations as managers with reps who are like, I don't want to establish a great connection with my sales development rep because he or she's going to be gone in 18 months. I think we, in the Workday model, because we're so high growth, we have a benefit that most of our reps can't live without a good sales development rep. They need them, especially once they get involved in actually closing their deals. And we really leverage the regional sales directors to be an advocate for us. Now, that being said, we still have some strategic account reps that are like, your sales dev rep is not going to be able to add a ton of value for me. Great. You do your own pipeline development, right? We'll focus the resources somewhere else. But that is probably one of our number one challenges, is continuing to keep people, especially once they start, you touched on the millennial, like, hey, so I'm 5 months in and I started hitting my, I over-attained my quota. And I'm like, and you just started having a full quota like a month ago. But so what next, right? So it is continually going back and saying, you can get better here, here, and here. And the sales reps themselves play a huge role in that, because the sales, like if we get a team of sales reps that are promoting and teaming really well with their reps, it's just so much more of a collaborative relationship, and the CSDs stay far more engaged. But at Workday, because we're so high growth, I don't know. We do have different grade levels where we have like a top tier sales development rep. But I think the longest CSD that we have in the department, they're all managers now. So it is a continual challenge.
Well, great. Thank you, everyone, for coming. The lights stayed on, so I feel like that's a win. And I want to thank Jason and Heather especially. Let's give them a round of applause.